All right, I've been reflecting more on this snake eyes ritual, and it's really deep in a variety of ways. And before going forward, just remember that I don't have any idea what I'm talking about in the grand scheme of things. I'm pulling all of this stuff out of thin air, just like everybody else. I don't have any kind of unique insight into the entities that are putting all of this stuff out there and constructing it in the first place. So it's all guessing. And I would be a fool if I tried to present it in any other way than that. So that disclaimer aside, let's get into this a little bit. This poster for the film has been all over the videos covering this, and just the way that the snake eyes is right next to his name is so intentional, right? It's a cage they're referring to. It's the new dimension that consciousness itself will be trapped within. In many ways, they are giving us their eyes, which are snake eyes. And this relates back to the biblical story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, which tempted Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. In that event, by being deceived by the serpent, Adam and Eve were given snake eyes. They were given the ability to see in ways that they were not able to previously, and that was by design because they were in a perfected state where they didn't need to be aware of these things, right? And then they fell down to a different lower dimension. And they were stripped of many of the things that had been given to them through this process. They created their own cage, in other words. And as the lineage of those original beings, we are likewise trapped in that cage. We fell. So it's very symbolic the way that this Charlie Kirk assassination was layered into the film and then put into actual reality with this memorial event that took place at a stadium designed as a coiled snake. Stadiums are energetic rituals. The people go in there for whatever the event is, and they give their energy to whatever is taking place. It is channeled in that way. It's harnessed and used for something else. And obviously, this is a symbolic cage as well that people are entering into. They walk willingly into the doors, give their energy away as a part of this society that is the fruit of that original decision, you see? It's the fruit of knowing in this way. Believe everything except your eyes. And this is referring to our actual real eyes, that connection to our Creator that gives us the sight to see the truth. Believe everything but that, and in fact, replace it with these snake eyes. We're giving you our mind and our eyes and our perception. The original entities that came to these two human beings and did this. Whispered softly into their ears, hey, don't you want to know this? Don't you want to have the ability to do this? Do you even know about this thing? And it's like a mirror that is going on in the world now, where we are making that same decision every day. Most of the devices that people are using has a bitten apple on it. That's the logo. Because it is giving you snake eyes. You see, your eyes are merging with this technology that is this same thing on many different levels. Number one, you are biting the apple, getting the knowledge. They are purposefully allowing this information that used to be secret out into the world for you to see, because it's all a part of this process, right? They know that the overwhelming majority of people will not be able to overcome the deluge of information, and they will inevitably be misled and fall into one of the traps that perverts their ability to see the real truth of what's going on. And they will become evangelizers of lies. Inadvertently, a lot of the time. They will truly believe something is true that actually isn't. I've done this. Everybody has done this. We are easily deceived as human beings who don't know anything, as sinners who are lost, and making the same decisions every day that Adam and Eve made. In that story, it's playing itself out every single day as we make the same decision to bite that metaphorical apple. It's the cage of the snake eyes. If you think this is all a coincidence, I don't know what to tell you, okay? It's not a coincidence. This is very intentional, symbolic propaganda that works on your subconscious mind to get you to continue doing what those original human beings did, to fall out of God's grace temporarily. So, keeping all of that in mind, in the final scene of Snake Eyes, there's this weird credit rolling that has construction in the backdrop on the Trump Taj Mahal Hotel and Casino. They're changing it into the Millennium Arena. That's very symbolic, obviously. The role of Trump in the context of the 9/11 ritual, which is this Snake Eyes ritual, right? It's the Twin Towers and that screen, as it relates to Project Stargate, that whole thing. But the very last scene shows an object embedded in the concrete pillar, which is a ruby ring that belonged to Serena, a Navy agent who was involved in Commander Kevin Dunn's plot. The credits roll over a construction scene focusing on a concrete pillar where the ring is hidden under a worker's hand before being revealed as the final shot. Now, think about how symbolic that is. It's the hidden hand, right? This idea that this ruby ring was hiding under the hand. That's a very symbolic revealing of the hidden hand, you see, in the way that it's shot. If you see the scene, you'll understand what I mean. And the character Serena is involved in the plot and is sacrificed as a loose end that had to be gotten rid of. And this is kind of showing you, yeah, hey, as a part of this ritual, as a part of what we are building here, some people will be sacrificed along the way. And you got to think of that in terms of Charlie Kirk's assassination. His sacrifice, as it were, is powering the construction of the great work, right? The pillar that they're raising, that this ring is embedded in, this ruby is embedded in, is symbolically showing you the sacrifice, the blood that is spilled that goes into the great work, that goes into building these types of things. And of course, it's one concrete pillar in the context of the 9/11 ritual where the two towers become one tower. They're raising this singular pillar in the aftermath of the storm. Here is a picture of the very last scene where the end comes up with this ruby ring trapped in the concrete, trapped in the great work, right? It's trapped in the thing that has been built through it, through that sacrifice. And metaphorically, this is your awareness trapped within their great work. In the context of the 9/11 ritual and Oz, obviously the ruby is very intentionally chosen to fit with the ruby red slippers from the Wizard of Oz. What do they tell you Dorothy has to do in that film? Click the ruby red slippers together 3 times and say, "There's no place like home." And she will go back to Kansas. Now, thinking of it in terms of the mind being sent into the land of Oz, metaphorically, consciousness itself being jumped into a new dimension, all it has to do is detach from where it has been sent through this propaganda, and it will metaphorically go home in the same way that Dorothy can do it. So what this director is showing you is, no, you are trapped. It has been solidified. Your ability to go home is in a cage, right? Okay, you now have the snake eyes. The house always wins. Your ability to leave is trapped through your assimilation into what we are building. The end. That's why the last scene, at least to me, is this ruby trapped in the concrete. That is this pillar that was raised in the aftermath of the storm and everything that went down at the Millennium Hotel. In the context of the turning point that is this Charlie Kirk sacrifice, this assassination, his blood spilled as a part of the agenda. And it's then trapped in there as well. It's part of what does the trapping. You see, it's the turning point spiritually in the same way that it was done to Adam and Eve, in the same way that they were manipulated into taking that turning point away from this perfected state that they were blissfully unaware existed. They didn't even know about any of the things that would later become very obvious when they fell from that state. And the name of the character with the ruby was Serena, which is directly derived from the Latin word serenus, meaning calm or clear. The name symbolizes a deep sense of calm, composure, and inner peace. It conveys an air of refinement and a graceful disposition. In other words, that disposition is being put in the cage, metaphorically speaking, right? It's being buried with this newly constructed thing via the machination of the hidden hand. It's only revealed at the very end of the movie in the last scene. And that is sort of what's going on now, right? Through this technology, things are being revealed in a certain way. That is, metaphorically, that apple being bit. During the credits scene, where they're showing all of this and leading to the reveal, there's a song playing. And the song is from the original soundtrack. It is Meredith Brooks' Sin City. And I'm going to read the lyrics here. In this town of pain, you could be the lucky one. Fate turns on a dime. There again, you have a reference to dime and 10, just like the NFL YouTube video, where it referenced the dime in the context of a strike, a 31-second video where 88 scores the touchdown first, when the most amount of eyes are on it, in that stadium that's shaped like a snake, where Charlie Kirk's memorial service was held just a few days earlier. The only thing that will change are the lights when they get brighter. They replace the sun. Out the door, you get burned, and there is no way back in. You've got nothing. Snake eyes, the house always wins. A drowning man does not die silently. You can feel the final warning. And the black money follows through the veins of the shallow. Change the name to protect the guilty. You'll never leave Sin City where you are king. Now, this is referring to the entities that are doing this and creating all of this propaganda, right? They are the kings of Sin City, and they are never leaving. But the point is, going back to the original story about why this entity wanted to corrupt Adam and Eve, it was this idea that it wanted to prove God wrong about human beings. No, I'm telling you they're like this, and I'll show you. And this is kind of a subconscious command to you as well, that you will likewise never leave Sin City because you're a king here just like us. This is playing while they're constructing that pillar that is holding the ruby. You understand? The end. The cage, Snake Eyes. If you look at some of the depictions of this scene, you can really get an idea of what Snake Eyes actually means in this context, right? this entity is giving you its eyes. That's the snake eyes ritual that's going on here. In its truest form, right? It's not about politics or the New World Order or anything along those lines. It's this. It's about your soul and this story. In this room of shame, you could sink this town and breathe another day. The mirror faces you. You cannot look away. Blood is on your hand. The streets will be the same. Under your feet like quicksand. Touch the face where a kiss of hope can last. And then I won't read the chorus again, but just one kiss from the shadow will be the touch of an angel. Just one kiss is all that you need if you never leave Sin City. You never leave Sin City. You never leave Sin City where you are king. Driving that point home as all of these visuals are going into your eyes in this scene. But the whole you are king of Sin City thing is interesting in the context of rubies, because throughout history, according to the International Gem Society, rubies were revered as a king's gemstone across numerous cultures. This regal association has infused ruby symbolism with powerful connections to authority, prosperity, and supernatural protection. So it's this ritual magic that's taking place where the ruby is very intentionally chosen as a form of protection for the spell that's being cast through films like this, as it relates to the larger ritual. The expulsion from Eden narrative begins with a dialogue between the woman and a serpent, identified in Genesis 3:1, as an animal that was more crafty than any other animal made by God, although Genesis does not identify the serpent with Satan. The woman is willing to talk to the serpent and respond to the creature's cynicism by repeating God's prohibition against eating fruit from the tree of knowledge. The woman is lured into dialogue on the serpent's terms, which directly disputes God's command. The serpent assures the woman that God will not let her die if she ate the fruit, and furthermore, that if she ate the fruit, her eyes would be opened, quote unquote, and she would be like God, knowing good and evil. Her eyes would be opened. In other words, she would be given the snake's eyes, the serpent's eyes. It's the snake eyes cage. Believe everything except your eyes, right? We're giving you our eyes. We're giving you the sight to see. And it seems like you're learning all of this amazing stuff. Look at all this stuff that's been hidden in plain sight by that hidden hand this whole time. And then we reveal the ruby to you, and you go, oh my gosh, I know something now. And I'm better than all these normies out there who don't know anything. Wow. I'm amazing. And that's part of the delusion that these fake conspiracy theorists sell you, right? They sell you this illusion that you're somehow enlightened by finding out things that were obvious if you had the actual real eyes to see, and you had to find it out through a YouTube video or something on the computer, right? You couldn't see it on your own before that, and so you are very easily manipulated by the illusion of something appearing divine. And this is what they say about this entity, right? It appears to you as an angel of light. It looks very similar to the real thing. And it would have to, right, to originally convince someone in this perfected state, living in this perfected existence, to fall away from that. It would have to be very cunning, and it would have to seem very close. I'm talking about it like I actually know. It's not that. It's just, I know my experience right now. I know how easily I am manipulated. I know how I have fallen in so many different ways at different points in my life, including right now. Like, I know the ways it's happening to me, so I can imagine kind of how it would be then as well, being a derivative of it many steps down the line. So that's what I'm speaking from. It's just my own personal experience. I have no idea what really happened. But anyways, I find it really interesting that this actual line is in Genesis 2:17, where it states, "You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." And obviously that's probably more metaphorical referring to a kind of spiritual death, right? It's the fall from this state that you were designed to be in, this original connection you had to God. You fall from that. That's the death that's referred to here. Though, if there's truth to immortality or very, 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 very long lifespans in ancient times, then yeah, that's a form of death as well that didn't exist prior to that fall from this state. But anyways, for those of you who saw Weapons, this was a film released on 8/8, which tied in the 88 once again. And it's this film about mind control, for lack of a better term. There's a character that's capable of controlling people's minds, getting them to do whatever she wants. Which is very literally what this subconscious sorcery does, right? That's what this ritual magic is. The spell is cast. But the time that is the central part of the plot is 2:17. And the director states that this is a reference to The Shining. It's the room number in the novel where Danny sees a terrifying ghost, and it's the real-life room where Stephen King stayed at the Stanley Hotel and got the idea for the whole thing. And then Kubrick changed the number to 237 for the movie adaptation. Meaning the fact that Weapons was released 8/8, a month before Charlie Kirk's assassination, and has this 217 angle to it, evokes this idea of the fall, eating from the tree, as that relates to the snake eyes ritual that was Charlie Kirk's assassination. In other words, it's a weapon, this subconscious propaganda. And if you do not see fully through it, you are eating from the tree. You're taking the bite. And it's leading you into spiritual oblivion. That's the end result. Which is what the director of Snake Eyes shows you in the very last scene, the end. And just like Zemeckis does at the end of The Walk, De Palma even turns the ruby a little golden, like Zemeckis does with the Twin Towers at the end of The Walk, giving you that alchemical imagery, turning lead to gold as a part of the great work. This alchemical transformation of the mind itself. And after that alchemical transformation, it's the end. Trapped in the cage. You now have permanent snake eyes. Do you see? Maybe I'm making all of that up, but it really seems like that's what it is. And then there is the whole Jezebel angle to the plot of Snake Eyes, which most people are talking about in the context of the Jezebel magazine or website. I don't remember which one it was, but they had that article about witches casting a spell on Charlie Kirk, and hopefully you can see how similar that is to the spell or curse that was placed onto mankind as a result of this fall, this act of eating from the tree. That's essentially what it was. So it has that relationship to the whole Charlie Kirk thing in that way, but also there's the concept of the Jezebel spirit, which is a concept from some Christian circles describing a demonic spirit associated with a biblical figure who was controlling, promoted false teachings, and was sexually immoral. The concept stems from the biblical story of Queen Jezebel, who was known for her persecution of prophets and her association with false worship of Baal. In the New Testament book of Revelation, the name Jezebel is used as a byword for apostasy. So think of that in the terms that I've been going into it in this video as it relates to the plot of Snake Eyes. The storm that's taking place through the entire film is the Jezebel storm, right? It's this demonic spirit that is orchestrating this plot. Okay? And the end is this pillar that is raised, this new construction this new age where the ruby is trapped. It's in its cage, snake eyes. As that then relates to the first snake eyes, right? To the garden and the snake eyes there that convinced these human beings to fall away from God. So in the film, that spirit is the organizing principle. It is the hidden hand, and it reveals the trapped ruby in the last scene, the end. Your eyes are now the snake's eyes. And that's what that dark ritual in that stadium was, in that snake stadium, right? It was this symbolic merger of the eyes with that spirit, right? And of course, the whole thing centered around Kirk's wife, who could be viewed as this kind of influence in terms of how it's portrayed in the Bible. And then obviously you have the further connection to Kirk being a word that means church in some etymologies, going back, I think, to Scotland and Northern England. So it's this idea of the Jezebel spirit inside of the church that claims to be Christianity, right? And they have a literal building that looks like snake eyes. It looks like a snake, which should tell you everything you need to know about what they are and what they stand for. That is the whole fake Christian element, and that ties into all the similar fake Christian YouTubers who are supposedly giving you the truth. But they're doing exactly what I'm describing in this video, okay? They're getting you to bite from the fruit without you knowing it. You think you're discovering the truth, but you're not. You're being misled into a vibration, a state of being that is fallen. Okay? That's what it is. It's not about the information they give you, though some of that is true and some of it is disinformation. There's a mix always. It's about how they are programming you to behave. And this is done subtly and a lot of times in a subconscious way. And some of these people probably don't even know they're doing it. They're just under the spell. That's what it is. It's all about building the cage that is the snake eyes. This is the mind wearing the ruby red slippers in the land of Oz that can no longer click them together to get back home. It has been solidified in the concrete. It has been subsumed within this thing that was built around it. The snake eyes are a cage, and Charlie Kirk is the turning point. The point of no return, the escape velocity, getting sucked into the black hole, singularity, the eyes merging with the screen. As that relates to biology and consciousness, yes, but also as that relates to your spirit, that which animates you. It reaching the turning point, the escape velocity, where it is sucked into the black mirror to the point where it can no longer escape. It can't get out of Oz. It's trapped. So, I think that's why this title was chosen for the film, and it was intentionally woven into the Charlie Kirk assassination. And further, it was very intentionally made to go quote-unquote viral. Or at least that's what all of the news was saying was happening. It's hard to tell these days what is actually going viral and what is not. But it seems like the design was to intentionally have Snake Eyes and Charlie Kirk's assassination in the context of turning point being bombarded into the collective mind. Having the association between Snake Eyes and Turning Point as it relates to the snake eyes. The serpent in the garden giving us its eyes, its sight, its mind, leading us in that direction. It's the turning point for that. And hopefully you see how subconscious sorcery works, because the majority of people have no idea that's going on. They're just reading the surface layer of all of this stuff. Oh, hey, did you hear about the conspiracy theory online about the assassination? How this movie predicted it, quote unquote? Yeah, about the guy who was running Turning Point USA. Oh, Snake Eyes. That's the name of the film. In that way, you artificially seed that language into the mind, and it interacts with itself along with all the other stuff in a way that is a weapon. Genesis 2:17, eating from the tree. That's why it was so artificially promoted by all the usual suspects, and everyone was talking about it, artificially so, because they are part of the design, right? They are doing the same thing that Donald Trump is doing. They need this artificial conspiracy rhetoric to work against, to orchestrate through. It's the resistance that is needed, and of course you always control the opposition. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense now why Snake Eyes was involved in this assassination. At least in terms of why it seemed so artificially promoted. Because like every other part of the ritual, it was designed into it from the beginning. I mean, we can tell from the movie itself that was the case, but I think it's difficult for people to go one step further and see how, oh, well, yeah, that was planned into the movie and the film for a variety of reasons, but one of the main reasons was so the controlled conspiracy crowd on the internet would run with it and promote it and get it into the collective mind in a way that otherwise would not be possible. Snake Eyes. And the cage.